Imagine a World Cup without England, France, Spain, or Germany. UEFA, which governs European soccer, has voted to boycott future World Cups if FIFA moves forward with a controversial plan. Now, that plan is to sell stakes in the tournament to a private equity group. The fear is that it could influence the game. CBC's Alexander Silberman has been following this story for us. Alexander, can you walk us through what this FIFA proposal is?
Well, Sarah, FIFA has sparked a lot of anger. I mean, you mentioned this boycott, a lot of pushback over these plans to give private investors a potential stake in the World Cup and the organization's other major events. So we know FIFA's president, Gianni Infantino, he was planning this proposal behind the scenes secretly for months, and he's framing this as a way to grow the sport, to generate more revenue. So what FIFA would do is create a new private subsidiary to run major events like the World Cup, and up to 21% of it would be sold off to private investors. We know intended investors include a company founded by Joshua Kushner, the brother of Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. So there have been concerns raised here about the possible political connections to this move. Another piece of this is that FIFA is offering this immediate $20 million U.S. bonus of funding to members who back the plan. There's also promises here that they could receive annual funding as well if they opt in. And this is something that just needs a simple majority to pass. And that's a lot of funding for some of these smaller member nations, more than 200 that are members of FIFA. But the big concern that we're hearing in the soccer community is that giving investors a role, letting them be part of events like the World Cup, will ultimately mean changes driven by profitability. So that's why we're seeing UEFA, European soccer's governing body, coming out and strongly rejecting this idea. Here's what one soccer commentator had to say about that reaction.
The fact that UEFA met together and came up with a unanimous decision this quickly underlines how important all of this is, and how outraged much of the soccer football world is, outraged they are about Infantino's idea.
So a lot of analysts and soccer fans say FIFA was already heading in this direction, Sarah, becoming more and more commercial. I mean, you look at things like the introduction of those controversial hydration breaks in the last World Cup, really a time to air commercials. And then you had the expansion of the number of teams. So fans are concerned that changes like that, driven by profit, could follow if this proposal moves ahead.
Okay, so we have now heard from European members that want to boycott future World Cups because of this move. What exactly is being said?
So UEFA, European soccer's governing body, a very prominent and powerful organization in the sport, they're one of the first groups to strongly criticize these plans. They held an emergency meeting today where they voted on this idea that they will boycott future World Cups if this proposal moves forward. And they also want to see reassurances from FIFA that this type of venture is fully sidelined and won't be revisited in the future. We have a statement from UEFA that they put out where they're saying the World Cup cannot be treated as an investment product. It is one of football's greatest sporting legacies. It has been built over generations by players, national teams, and supporters across every continent. I'm going on to say that this was on the brink of approval without any meaningful consultation with those entrusted with stewarding the game. And we're also hearing reaction as well from CONCACAF. They're the governing body for North America, Central America, and the Caribbean, so this includes Canada. They also held an emergency meeting, coming out and saying they reject these plans, putting out a statement as well, raising concerns about the lack of due process surrounding the proposal, the artificially short deadline imposed, and the absence of any review or approval by relevant governing bodies. We haven't heard yet from the South American governing body, but we do know concerns have been expressed from the Asian governing body as well. So we'll have to wait and see where this backlash, including the boycott and CONCACAF rejecting this, leads, and whether or not this proposal will still move forward.
Hey, CBC's Alexander Silberman in Montreal. Thank you. Okay, so what does this mean for the future of FIFA? Well, Ben Steiner is a sports writer, soccer writer, for Sports Illustrated. So perfect guest to have come in studio. Thank you very much.
Of course, it's certainly a big day in our sport here.
Yeah, well, it is, because, I mean, here we have CONCACAF voting against it. Not going quite so far as the European countries, teams. But what do you make about, I guess, the unity on the part of all of these countries and teams?
Well, it takes quite something to unify all of Europe and all of North America, and that's what this decision proposed decision by FIFA has been able to do. And the potential of this is to ruin the World Cup as we know it. Already the World Cup has grown from 32 teams. Of course, we just saw the 48-team World Cup, and it ended just 11 days ago, and now we're talking about everything falling apart, which is going to be a 64-team World Cup next time around, and now who knows whether the European nations would even be a part of that. Maybe UEFA can go ahead and create its own World Cup. We've seen invitations to regional tournaments before. Of course, they do have the European Championship. Do we see North American teams, South American teams invited to the European Championship? That could be on the table, but everything is very much loose right now, because FIFA could very much stick to their guns and keep with this, and then who knows where UEFA goes and where CONCACAF goes as well.
So when you say ruin the World Cup, you mean because of the boycott, of countries saying that they won't participate? Do you mean if, say, they were to participate, but the private equity element of this, what part of it ruins it?
Well, when you look at what UEFA said earlier today, it was very staunch that they're not going to participate in FIFA events going forward. And the first one that really comes under threat would be the Women's World Cup, which is slated to start qualifying just next month in Europe, and then that tournament in Brazil next year. And there's a potential that the world champions, Spain, would not be in that tournament if things don't get sorted out very quickly. And of course, the deadline in September for teams to sign up for whether they want to be a part of this new FIFA plan. But there's a potential that the Women's World Cup next year becomes a real victim of this new plan and potentially everything falling apart.
I feel like you have looked into this new plan and maybe have an understanding beyond what I do here as to what the reasoning for inviting private equity into, the beautiful game. It's supposed to be pure sport, and this certainly feels a little more like pure money and monetary gain. But what's the argument for it?
The argument for it, from FIFA's perspective, would be to put more money to the smaller nations where they want to grow football. And with that, nations would be getting about $40 million US to sign up, and then $20 million over the next World Cup cycle up to 2030. And that could dramatically change the scene in a country like Curacao, a country like Haiti. Even a country like Canada could benefit tremendously from potentially $60 million coming into the pockets of the federation to grow soccer in those countries. That is a very hard thing to turn down, but countries are unifying against that, and there's also the potential that the World Cup isn't all that valuable if you don't have a lot of these teams, especially the European teams in it.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Given this controversy, what's the future for Infantino?
Infantino's future is up for election next year. He was set to run unopposed. He actually announced that he was going to run at the FIFA Congress in Vancouver earlier in the spring. But now there's potential that a Canadian, Victor Montagliani, could run against him. He's currently the president of CONCACAF, and of course CONCACAF taking a pretty strong stance on this. Or Nasser Al-Khelaifi, who is the president of beIN Sports and has been involved in soccer for a while as well. The question is whether they can garner enough votes, because there's 211 FIFA nations, and whether you're England or you're the smallest nation, you all have one vote. And Infantino has done a good job to get those smaller nations.
I mean, there are calls for Infantino to step down, or at least speculation that he might, given, frankly, the mess that's been created.
There's certainly the possibility that he could step down. Of course, in 2015, Sepp Blatter stepped down from his role as FIFA president, and Gianni Infantino comes in to save the day. But I don't see that falling that way. I think he has too much of still a lot of votes in his favor from those smaller nations.
Okay, Ben Steiner, soccer writer for Sports Illustrated. Thanks so much.
Thank you.